Enterprise Stories is the weekly radio program that shares the experiences of successful Nigerian entrepreneurs and provides expert analysis of their success factors. Enterprise Stories, business stories of success.
From engineering to tourism business, this week's episode we share the inspiring story of a female entrepreneur that built a successful travel business. Welcome to Enterprise Stories. I remain your host, Olawale. Stay tuned, we'll be right back after this short break.
When you are successful in your small business, as I am, people will always come to you. They want to know what you're doing differently, who your bankers are, and what kind of deals you are getting from them. Well, I'm happy to enjoy all the benefits of the SME Zero COT account from Stanbic IBTC Bank. My profit is up. But why? Because I get zero COT, unlimited turnover, no limit on check lodgement or withdrawals, free internet and telephone banking, as well as discount on training courses for small business owners. With special benefits like that on the SME Zero COT account from Stanbic IBTC Bank. Now, there is no reason why your business won't boom just like mine.
Stanbic IBTC Bank, moving forward.
Good day, listeners. My name is Funmi Faloye, and I will be your faculty for today. Today's topic would be giving feedback, and I'd like to talk about what it takes to give feedback, the right kind of feedback to your staff. Everyone makes mistakes every once in a while, and even when we don't make mistakes, it's also good to know what we've done right in addition to what we've done wrong. Someone once said to me that feedback is the breakfast of champions, and I completely agree with that. In order to succeed and do well, people need to hear feedback as to what they've done, whether it's right or wrong, as I said earlier. There are a few guidelines about giving feedback, and I'll just quickly run through them. First of all, when you give feedback to people, focusing this time on your staff because we're on Enterprise Stories, it should be frequent. The feedback should be actionable. It should be specific, and it should be timely. Now, when we say frequent, I don't mean that, every minute, every hour, you're telling the person what he or she has done wrong, but at regular intervals, you should let people know how they're doing, whether they're doing well, whether they're not doing so well, what they need to do to improve, and what they can do better. So when we say actionable, what we mean is that it's not just about giving feedback to say, look, you need to do better. What does better mean? You need to give them specific action points that they need to work on. And if you say, oh, you've done well, it's not just to say you've done well. Done well in what area? You need to be specific. Oh, you did that proposal well. That's how feedback becomes specific. The person knows exactly what they've done well and what they need to work on or improve upon. Lastly, the feedback should be timely. In other words, it's not about coming to a person a week after the action has occurred to say, oh, that customer you were speaking with the other day, you didn't quite handle them so well. At that point in time, they've probably forgotten about it. Or even if they haven't completely forgotten about it, the details are fainter in their mind. So it's more difficult to actually make changes or take any remedial action at that point. So it's all very important that anytime you see something, you take time as soon as is easily possible, to just give that feedback immediately to the person. So remember the 4 guidelines. It's the acronym for it is FAST. Frequent, actionable, specific, and timely. That's the way to give feedback. I'll also just talk about the 2 kinds of feedback that you can give to your employees. We have motivational feedback, which is the one that reinforces positive performance. So like the example I gave earlier, someone has handled a customer well or has done a proposal particularly well, maybe even under very trying circumstances. They've been able to put together a response to a customer. So you let the person know, oh, in spite of everything that happened, how difficult that customer was, you were able to respond. I really appreciate what you did. I appreciate the fact that it took a lot from you to be able to do that, but you still went ahead to put things properly. So well done and thank you. So that's motivational feedback. The staff is motivated to do better the next time. The second type of feedback is constructive feedback. This is the instance where there was a bad situation. Maybe a customer wasn't handled properly and you happen to witness it or someone told you about it. So in that case, you want to also let the person know, sorry, I saw the situation. This is what you should have done. This is the way you should have handled it. And then you get it sorted at that time. So it's important that you give both types of feedback. Finally, I'd just like to mention a few guidelines when it comes to giving feedback. First of all, always seek opportunity to give feedback. Like I said earlier, be specific. Very importantly, when you're giving feedback, let the two different types of feedback I've given you stand alone. So don't mix motivational feedback and constructive feedback in the same sitting. If someone has done something well and done something wrong about the same time, separate it maybe by a few hours or a day in order that you do not confuse your two messages. Finally, be authentic. When you're giving feedback, it's important that your staff see that you're sincere and you're authentic in what you're saying to them. That way they would actually listen to you and hopefully take to what you have said. I hope that you've been able to get something from this teaching, and I look forward to hearing your stories of success. Thank you.
My brother, you see, for this our import and export business, no be who go China pass 9 be the issue. Now who you dey follow talk 9 matter, Who you dey follow talk as how? The expert then we sabi the business of import and export in toto. People like Stanbic IBTC Bank.
Stanbic IBTC? Nah, person name be that.
Stanbic IBTC Bank na my bank, and then sabi my business well.
Announcing the arrival of Flight 220 from China.
Doing business in China? Come, let's talk about how our expertise and understanding of the import and export business will help you grow and trade smarter. With Stanbic IBTC Bank, you have access to import and export trade finance, letters of credit, telegraphic transfer, bills for collection, and other well-tailored trade advice that moves you forward. For more information, visit www.stanbicibtc.com or call our number 0700 2255 782 6242. Stanbic IBTC, moving forward.
Welcome back to Enterprise Stories. We have a beautiful guest in the house today, and she's going to be sharing a story with us. Welcome to Enterprise Stories. I'm sure my listeners are waiting for me to introduce you. She is a radio presenter herself, and she's been in the travel business for several years. So I'm going to let her introduce herself and tell us a bit more about our business. So you want to introduce yourself to my listeners today?
Yes. Good day. My name is Funmi Faloye from World and Travel Land, and I'm not a radio presenter, but we have a show. We have a program on Classic FM on Thursdays, just to talk about travel and things you could do around the world. Okay,
fantastic. So in the studio with us today is Funmi Faloye, the CEO of World and Travel Land, and I think she's been very humble in introducing herself. Funmi, I want you to tell us, how did it all start? You are now having a radio program talking about traveling and tourism. Where did this all start from?
Travel, for me, travel has always been my dream. It's fun. It's interesting. It's a lot of work also. Yes, I agree. But I remember when I was in school, I finished from University of Lagos. My first degree was in chemical engineering. So for a lot of people, what happened to the mobiles? What happened to the chevrons? What happened to the oil and gas companies? But I realized when I was in school that it was a struggle through those 5 years, especially when we have to go for the courses, the chemical engineering, engineers will understand what I'm talking about, but every time we were in class, I was always distracted. I always had a pen and a paper, and I was always calculating figures. What figures I was calculating, honestly, I can't remember. But I know I was always calculating figures. After 10-15 minutes, I'm dozing off in class. And the lecturers are always saying, Funmi, can you please keep your eyes open? It was quite embarrassing. But for me, it was because that was not my dream. It was not what I enjoyed doing. But when I got to year 5, they brought in some courses because that was the last year. And we had management in engineering. We had business in engineering. So they brought in a lot of people from the biz admin and all that, just to tell you about how to be an entrepreneur, even as an engineer. And while all through those courses, I was always in class on time. I was always sitting in front. I'm always at the back.
And always awake.
And I was always awake. And my notes were complete. But for the other courses, I always had to keep up with my notes, and all things like that. So I knew what I wanted to be. I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. What I wanted to do, I don't know, maybe a bit of that would come from my background, because I come from a family of full entrepreneurs. My mom, my dad, my grandmom. So I've never had anyone around me in a 9 to 5. And in school also, my mom also encouraged me to do business because, she saw that was what I really wanted to do. So I always sold clothes to my friends. I used to travel to Italy. I used to travel everywhere with her. And she gave me $3,000, if I remember, to start my own business. So I was selling clothes to my friends. I was selling shoes to them. And I enjoyed doing that. But while I was doing that, for me, it was about the new place to go. It wasn't really about the clothes I was selling. It was more about the new place to go, the new hotel to visit. I wanted to explore. So when I was getting married and I left school, I knew I wasn't going to apply for any job. I knew I was going to start my own business. And what was that business I wanted to start? It was obviously every time I kept thinking travel, but how? I didn't think of travel agency. What exactly can I do? The first thing I thought of was I wanted to have my own holiday resort. Okay, leaving school, I want to have a holiday resort. How do you do that? What do I need to do? I need to first start with the travel industry. Let me understand the tourism industry first, and then it was the travel agency. Okay, I'll start. But I came into the industry when there were giants in the industry. It was an industry where you had to pay your dues with the number of years you worked there or with the number of years you had the business running.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just that little girl straight from University of Lagos. And the first thing I realized, my friends are not even traveling as much. Because when you start business, your first clients are your friends and then your family. But so I could count the number of tickets I was selling because my friends were still depending on their parents to buy their holiday. And then, I was still managing it. I had just a little space in Ikeja, which was nice. And I kept doing that every day, go back to work, I kept doing that back and forth. But I realized that, look, the industry is very large. The barrier to entry is practically zero. It's limited, so anyone can start a travel industry. But there were giants that had been doing it for years, and they had most of the corporate accounts and all.
And how long have you been in business for now?
9 years.
9 years. Okay, now this is getting very interesting. If you're just joining us on Enterprise Stories, we have in the house with us today Funmi Faloye, the CEO of World and Travelland, and she's been sharing with us how it all started. Funmi, in 9 years you've been running this business. It's been not easy.
Definitely, Wally.
At what point did that transformation come? Because I remember visiting you some years back in Ikeja, in that comfortable place with one or two staff, but you have grown from then. What made that change happen?
I think I was determined. I knew what I wanted. It was challenging. It was because at that time, for you to be a registered travel agent, you need to have your IATA license. At that time, there was no IATA in Nigeria anymore, so no one could get an IATA license for over 4 years. So at that time, it was quite discouraging, but I knew where I was going. And I also knew that I was competing with giants that have been there for years. And my own dream was more of the holiday, not really the ticketing, not the trial, not the
experience.
Yes, it was more creating that experience. So I traveled a lot. I go for all travel exhibitions around the world. I go every year to the World Travel Market. I go every year to the Arabian Travel Market. I go for the South America Travel Market. So I was always exploring. I wanted to see what was on the other side of the world. I always traveled around to meet with partners to work with. And the first place I started with, and I remember talking to a friend of mine, which is in the same industry. At that time, every travel agent was about the tickets. And we started with holidays to Dubai. And when that started, I said, give this thing only 2 years. In 2 years, everybody will be selling this. So what I made sure I always had was I was a step ahead. At the time people started selling Dubai, I was off Dubai. I was selling Dubai, but it was just one of those places. I had moved to selling Singapore, I had moved to selling Malaysia, I had moved to selling Maldives, I had moved to selling Seychelles. So I was always ahead. So I had the chance of having the giants buy holidays from me. So I had the people that were the forerunners in the industry, but because they don't do the holiday part of it, they were buying that from me. So what happens, yes, it's just that little company, but they knew who that company was, in as much as we're not on the same level when it comes to the ticketing angle, but when it comes to holiday, they handle fully and they give it to us to handle. And then it kept going like that. Then the airlines noticed, and then the airlines started coming. Okay, what can we do with you? Can we do holidays with you? South Africa Tourism came in. We became one of their partners to sell South Africa two Nigerians. That way we got to know the embassy, we're able to do packages. So it was just from one thing to another. But what I realized was working for us was always thinking ahead, looking for that information, always ahead of the customers. We always have to look for something they need. And you see, for Nigerians, every Nigerian wants to travel. Every Nigerian wants the exposure. But what happens is the first place Nigerians will go to is the UK. And then the next place is America. And then when it comes to Seychelles, Maldives, Mauritius, they're like, where do I go? So for me, I don't want to sell you the UK. I want to sell you the other places. And that was how it all started.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I mean, we can go on and on because this is getting very interesting to me. I definitely want to visit those places you just mentioned.
You should.
But it sounds all well and good, but it's not been easy. You have had your challenges. Now you're managing a larger number of people. What are some of those challenges you've experienced and how have you been able to overcome them?
If I start with clients and dealing with people, it's not easy dealing with people. But I always say something, and I say that to all my team members. I say there's nothing wrong with things going bad. There's nothing wrong with things going wrong. But there's a lot that has to do with how you manage it. Things would happen. It's logistics. You cannot control 90%, 100% of the things, but things would happen. But how do you manage it? I remember my first major job was the roadshow for the Transcorp Hilton when they were selling their,
Yeah.
And they went to a lot of countries. They were in Dubai, they were in London, they were in everywhere. And we were small and we got the job. You see, the first thing was, how are we going to manage this? But I also know that it's what the clients thinks at the end of the day. Are they happy with you? Not what went wrong. How did you manage it? So I'm always very eager. I call my clients on arrival. Are you okay? I call the pickup. Have you picked them? And I make sure all things like that go on. So the clients come back happy because before they leave wherever they are, whatever had gone wrong has been corrected, apology and things like that. But the major issue I have when sometimes funding can be an issue. Funding can be a major issue.
I was going to jump on that next. So how have you also been able to manage the funding aspect of the business? Because it then starts to get a bit intensive capital-wise.
Yes.
How are you able to breach that?
When it was EDS, now it's EDC. When I was in EDS, I remember someone saying, when you start a business, the first set of people you go to is your family. Because you see, the typical bank is not going to start with a startup. So you start with your family, you start with your friends, and then you move. And that's exactly what I did. At the beginning, I had the support of my mom. I had the support of my husband. And then when it got to a particular stage, then I needed the support of the bank. And my bank has been good, because
I don't want to know the name of your bank. I know your bank. It's Istanbic IBTC. It's fine.
No.
Istanbic. Yes, Istanbic.
Yes, okay.
Yes, Istanbic IBTC.
The bank was good, the support was there. So we kept going back and forth. There were times I needed things that we're not used to. We never got it, then we'll go back again. It's been here and there, but I always manage my funds because I know the way the industry works. You need to pay your bills in every 2 weeks. You're not going to give them stories. IATA doesn't want to know what you've gone through. So I limit my exposure because it's very easy to have a large, exposure in this cash exposure. So I limit my funds and I make sure I don't do too much credit, but I also do that in other forms. So I just make sure I always look at my figures. I'm always checking where I am. And I did the World Cup, and that was also a major issue. At the time of the World Cup, it was like, wow, the World Cup is in South Africa. Definitely Nigerians are going, and we bought the hotel, the tickets, everything. Wally, the number of Nigerians that went on private accounts were almost nothing. Wow. So you know what that means? All those hotels, nobody stayed there. And we had a facility from the bank. That was a major issue for me. Until today, I don't think my bank even knew we had such an issue. Because for me, I would say, until I get to the break-even point, I need to keep checking these figures. I need to keep checking what I'm doing. I need to keep doing the promotions here. And that worked perfectly well. So every day, I'm checking the figures. I'm checking how many more do we need to sell to break even. So at the point where we broke even, whatever happens then I'm fine. Because I'm able to pay the bank. I'm able to pay the interest. We had a huge loan from the bank. And the hotels, we didn't sell about 70% of our hotels. We didn't sell the match tickets because, we bought a lot of Nigerian matches and nobody wanted to watch the Nigerian matches. And the tickets we bought for like $40, we ended up selling it for $10 while he was a child. I was practically not sleeping.
I can imagine how that
because it was a time that we could either do well.
But you came out.
Yes, I did, because I was determined to come out.
Yes.
I didn't want it. It would never break me because things like this would happen. I started business knowing that there will be issues, but how I resolve the issues are also important. So at any time there's an issue, I pull back and I check what do I need to do. And I act on it quickly. I don't wait till the end of it where there's nothing to do anymore. So at the point I realized that there was an issue, we're not going to be able to pay this loan if we go on this way. I think that was like 2 weeks to the World Cup. I started selling the hospitality tickets, and I started selling, hospitality tickets are for some particular set of people, yes. And we're selling the hospitality tickets at a high premium because those tickets were not available. So the last amount cash we had with us, we bought the final match tickets. The final match ticket was about $1,000. And when we're selling the final match tickets, we could sell it for whatever. I sold some final match tickets for $4,000.
Where was I?
But you see, a lot of people say, they made a lot of money, but we didn't. But we broke even. And we've learnt our lesson. We know how to play.
It looks like I'm going to be bringing you back to do some analysis for us because your experience has helped you.
Exactly.
Listeners, if you're just joining us, we've been chatting, having a wonderful time here with Funmi Faloye, the CEO of World and Travel Land, and she shared with us how she's remained competitive in the market. She shared with us some of the challenges she's had and how she's overcome them, and she's also even doing analysis of what she should have done right. But before we go, because we're about to wrap up, there are so many people that are in this business, the travel agents are doing this, doing that. What message would you be sending out to them today?
Okay, first, we have over 600 registered travel agents, so that is a lot. But you see, if you're going to come into the industry or you're in the industry and you're doing things the way it's been done, then you're just going to be one of the others. You need to come in and check, what do I need to do differently? Remember, World and Travel Land has done it this way. It does not mean there might be something we could have done better. So somebody else, some travel agent might think, okay, maybe if they had done it this way, it would be better. Then you must have a new way of doing things. Yes, we're all still doing the same thing eventually. I mean, we're all selling holidays, we're all selling tickets, we're all doing logistics, and all that. But how you do it is different. We had to come online. We started the worldtravelland.com online. We went on CNN. A lot of people are, what are you doing on CNN? We have our plans. We know what we want to achieve. We know where we're going. We know how to get there. So you need to have a plan, because what I see happen is a lot of people are just consumed by, there are too many people. I'll just sell the few I can, pay bills, and I'm fine. So it depends. Do you want it to become a business where you could grow and have your children take over it, or do you just want it to become something you can pay your bills from? For me, we're over 28 in my company. We're a team. I don't say my staff. We're a team, because we all need to work together to achieve wherever we're going. And it's worked perfectly well for me. I've had to employ more people because I was getting overwhelmed. And it's working well for me now. But I think there's still so much more.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Funmi, for sharing your story with us today on Enterprise Stories. Listeners, you've heard it from Funmi Faloye, the CEO of World and Travel Land. If you're coming into the market and you're not coming in with innovation, you are not going to make it here. Stay tuned for the analysis. We'll be right back.
When you are successful in your small business, as I am, people will always come to you. They want to know what you're doing differently, who your bankers are, and what kind of deals you are getting from them. Well, I'm happy to enjoy all the benefits of the SME Zero COT account from Stanbic IBTC Bank. My profit is up. But why? Because I get zero COT, unlimited turnover, no limit on check lodgement or withdrawals, free internet and telephone banking, as well as discount on training courses for small business owners. With special benefits like that on the SME Zero COT account from Stanbic IBTC Bank. Now, there is no reason why your business won't boom just like mine.
Stanbic IBTC Bank, moving forward.
You're tuned in to Enterprise Stories, brought to you by Stanbic IBTC and Enterprise Development Center of the Pan Atlantic University.
We are back. We're now on the analysis segment. Bumi, you've heard the story of Funmi Faloye of World and Travel Land. What's your take?
Thank you, Wale. I've seen Funmi's advert on CNN, and it was really so good to hear the story from her mouth about how World Travelland started and the challenges she has had and the triumphs that she has also had. She talked about the fact that she's in an industry where there are lots of competitors, 600 other competitors, that is a lot. But she was able to think strategically. Going on CNN, for example, was a strategic move to ensure that she stood out from the rest of the crowd. And as entrepreneurs, that is so important for us to do. We have to ensure that we think strategically and look for ways to differentiate ourselves from the rest of the crowd. The other thing she also talked about was the fact that in spite of everything that happened to her along the way, she was determined to make her dreams come through. She was determined to pay the price. So she paid the price in all kinds of ways. She paid the price by traveling to attend various travel shows, equipping herself with knowledge from all over the place. Another way in which she was able to make herself stand out is by focusing on a niche area, holidays. Everybody else was doing ticketing, but she saw that there was a gap for holidays and she chose to focus on that. And she ensured that in doing that, she kept herself a step ahead of every other person. So just like she said, when everybody else got into something else, she was already out doing the next thing. As entrepreneurs, it's very important that we imbibe that as well. The ability to think ahead, to envisage what customers want 1 year, 2 years, 3 years down the line. It's very important and very key to our success as entrepreneurs. Funmi also talked about the fact that it's okay for things to go wrong, and I cannot but agree with her. Things can go wrong. What is important, just as she said, is how you respond to it. So it's important that as entrepreneurs, we should be prepared, not be scared, but be prepared for anything that happens and have a plan B, a plan C when necessary to take care of whatever challenges, whatever issues come along the way. I also like the fact that she said that she used to say the same thing to her team. So in other words, it's not just an idea that's in her head. You have to communicate your thinking, your vision, your plans to your team so that they can flow along with you. You can work together as a team, not as isolated individuals in the company. So I hope that from Funmi's story and the analysis that I've done on it, that you've been able to take something away that you would be able to make use of in your business to make your business more successful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bumi, for your analysis. Listeners, we've come to the end of Enterprise Stories for this week. Until next week, stay blessed. If you've missed this week's episode, not to worry, just log on to edc.edu.ng and download this week's episode. Until next week, stay blessed. Join Enterprise Development Center of the Pan-Atlantic University, formerly known as the Pan-African University, as we celebrate 10 years of entrepreneurship development in Nigeria. For questions and comments, please email edc@pau.edu.ng or log on to Enterprise Stories on nigeria.sma2key.org for useful resources and articles to help grow your business.